Why is football consultation so significant? Why are we all getting very interested in the football governance bill? It's currently going through the Houses of Parliament, started off in the House of Lords, and it's about to go to the House of Commons. So we're kind of half time in this journey. And to discuss it with me, I've invited my good friend Kevin Rye. I think he's the biggest expert on fan engagement that I know. And maybe, Kevin, you'd like to give us a little bit of the background. How did we get to a position where this legislation is now on the cards?
Hi, yeah, thanks for having me on.
That has not previously had statutory requirements to consult has come about. And with all the cultural peculiarities of an industry. So consultation has been in planning for generations. It's been in the National Health Service ever since 1948. And for the first time in recent years, we've got a brand new industry that's going to be required by law to engage with fans, and it's being required by law to consult with fans. So the advent of the new legislation brings to the fore many of the debates that we've been having around consultation for years, and it's causing a lot of serious thinking. What's the reaction going to be in the football industry? Because it's a very different industry from the others we've just spoken about.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, it's a highly protected industry. It's able to operate. What you've got is a collection of individual local monopolies, geographically located monopolies, football clubs operating within cartels, leagues, FA Cup competitions, things like that, who then have special carve-outs to exempt them from normal competition rules. Collective bargaining on TV deals. We saw what happened when that was removed in Italy. It's always been protected in this country, and Spain did it as well. And it causes all sorts of financial chaos. So we already have a recognition of the industry being exceptional. What we're seeing now is the expected wailing and gnashing of teeth of a relatively small number of clubs. They are the biggest and the noisiest, whereas actually most of the pyramid recognises, and certainly the professional pyramid recognises the absolute desperate need for this. Forget conversations or talk of extinguishing, a vibrant, a super inventive capitalistic industry. This is a protected space, which is part business, part cultural, part sporting. And in order to continue to have that protection, it really does have to start regulating better. And it hasn't done for 30, 40 years. So we're merely returning the industry to some kind of sensible way of running itself in the modern world we operate within. So the reactions, actually, the EFL are very keen on it. The Premier League have accepted it. They're now less keen on elements of it. And for some reason, politically, certainly elements of the Conservative Party have suddenly decided, well, that was nothing to do with me, which I don't quite understand. But, that's no political point. It's an observation of some quite strange behaviour from an opposition party that were pledged to implement what they're now opposing. So it's a mixed bag, but it's all to be expected.
And it's fair to say, isn't it, that the most controversial aspects of the football governance bill are not really the consultation provisions, but more the financial regulation and the competition elements. But coming back to consultation, I mean, I think this is of great relevance and importance to local communities. I think local authorities, many of whom have woken up maybe a little bit too late to the threats posed to their local community spirits with the identity with a local club in recent years. So I think they are people who stand to gain from a much more open, consultative culture in the industry. So on consultation itself, as Kevin, you and I have examined in recent months, it struck us that the bill had been drafted in a somewhat unfortunate way. The bill seemed not to recognise the distinction and exactly what the distinction is between engagement and consultation. Because the bill requires everybody to do in consultation and only some to do engagement. And we think it should be the other way around. So not from a sense of mischief, but from generally needing to know how best to advise clubs and communities, we wrote a few months ago to the department saying, are you sure that you've got it the right way round? And are you going to be applying the gunning principles, or will the gunning principles be applied by the courts to consultation? Now, I was a little bit astonished to get the reply that said categorically, oh no, gunning will not apply. I then consulted some of the leading counsel in the High Court who undertake judicial reviews from time to time on consultation, and they were as staggered as I was, because it's not for a minister to say, this is consultation, but I don't intend the rules to apply, unless they put it in the legislation, which they're not going to do. So how do you think clubs will cope with the rules of consultation and the demands made of them, Kevin?
I mean, the industry's largely embraced the changes around, if I just use engagement with a small e, engaging much more broadly with fans. It's done it on the basis of actually adopting changes created through pressure. From people like myself, from my former organisation, Supporters Direct, from the Football Supporters Association, now from Supporters Trust and other fans. So actually, in many respects, it's sort of doing a lot of the things that we're talking about in some ways. And some of the rules around consultation over changes were already kind of at least loosely mapping onto or following many of the gunning principles. The things that are certainly culturally the gunning principles, if not the actual letter. So it's not going to be as massive a change as you think. And actually, I think the biggest problem for clubs is not a willingness or lack of willingness. It's more to do with a confusion over terminology. I think there's a genuine problem with the way that football allocates its money, because like theatre, cinema, other sports, the talent, quote unquote, gets the money. That means, unfortunately, unlike something like the theatre, where you then pay a box office staff in order to distribute the tickets and you make sure the back office function works, the problem is that football kind of doesn't do that enough, doesn't do it well enough, doesn't invest in the fan engagement staff to mean that then when you come to see the talent, or when you're talking about the talent, all the customer facing, in inverted commas, the fan facing stuff is working well, because they're not investing in it. And so the shift is going to be, I think, is actually going to be about reallocation of resources. I think the need that's going to come from all of this is less about the regulatory environment, because that's kind of already being followed in many respects. This will be a codification of it, and a more tightening up of some of it. But actually, I think the next shift coming is to do with resources, and we need to start spending money properly on the people doing the work and doing the structured engagement, doing the dialogue, doing the statutory consultative work, the more general engagement work. So I'm more concerned that we have an eye on the next part, and we don't get too preoccupied with worrying about how clubs may or may not cope with this change, because I think they'll cope fine in many respects. It's more about, as I said, the reallocation of resources. This is going to challenge, just to re-emphasize, this change is more for me about, there's a regulatory environment coming down the track and all that kind of stuff. This is going to change the culture of football.
Well, looking forward, we now need to see whether the bill gets changed to any extent in the House of Commons. But as soon as it is clear that we have a stable piece of legislation, we know what it's going to say, we will see, we already have seen moves to set up the regulator, the bureaucracy is going to be set up. I think it's going to be a revelation to fans, many of whom have been knocking on the doors of some clubs, trying to be heard, that they will have a statutory right to be heard. And there are questions. The bill doesn't, for example, define what a fan is. So if you belong to the Malaysian Federation of Manchester United supporters or whatever it is, do they come within the orbit of this or they don't? So there are some interesting issues that lying ahead. And I think, Kevin, we can announce now, can't we, that our intention is, as soon as the bill is sufficiently clear, our intention is to hold the first of a series of seminars on this to help the industry and also to help communities, to help fan groups, and to help local authorities get their heads around what will be different, what the demands are. I don't think consultation should frighten a single club. I think we need to help them do it better and to the standards that we can all expect. Well, that's all we're going to cover just for today. I'm fascinated by how this is going to go. I know that Kevin, with all his years of expertise, sitting alongside me will stop my wider enthusiasm for consultation as a subject. But we're both football fans, and maybe some of you are also. And in that case, you'll also follow this with as much interest as we do. Thanks to Kevin, and thanks to you all.